Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard. Friday, all day long. It is Friday, and what a better way to start it off than our old friend Matt Taylor from the Colts. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com and the Wow Food Group and their family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Matt Taylor heading to work, man. Up and early and at it. You're just a man. You're a Renaissance man.
I don't know about that, but life is good. What's going on? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I was been going through a lot of the Jonathan Taylor stuff and just enjoying it. It's actually a very pleasurable read. If you're looking for something funny, I think most of the pieces I've read have been more comical than anything.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's still an ongoing situation there between Taylor and the Colts. I mean, that was yesterday when Taylor spoke for the first time, really since June, during the offseason workout program. And, clearly in terms of substance, didn't have a whole lot to say. I mean, there really wasn't any clarification from his part on, what's been happening off the field with he and the Colts and, looking for, the finance and things of that nature. But, to keep it simple for everybody, he started the year on PUP, coming off that ankle injury and an ankle procedure in the off season. And PUP is the first 4 games of the season. And then after that, you're eligible to either come off of that list, go on IR, and so the Colts have this 21-day window here to have 3 weeks to kind of see where he's at, assess his situation health-wise, and then at any point in that stretch, they can activate him, put him on the active roster. Right now, he doesn't count towards the 53-man active roster in terms of just overall numbers. That's sort of a loophole within the parameters there from the league. Now, here on Friday, he practiced yesterday for the first time since December, and today is going to be a big day, and he's going to practice again. So either today or tomorrow, the Colts could activate him to the active roster and see him play on Sunday in a pivotal game for the Colts against the Tennessee Titans. We'll see if that happens, and if that does happen, what to look for him in his first game back since December of last year. So just exciting the fact that Taylor is back, and anytime you can add one of the best players in the NFL, certainly one of the best players at his position back on your roster, that would be really, really advantageous to see what he can do and what that backfield potential would be and what it would look like. Richardson, just 2 really athletic, dynamic playmakers sharing the same backfield.
Yeah, and Zach Moss. Is it Zach Moss? What's his first name?
Yep, Zach Moss.
You got Zach Moss. And after yesterday, and I know that you're kind of handcuffed a little bit, but with the way he handled the presser yesterday, you just wonder how much is he going to be willing to give of himself to the Colts right now, because it doesn't appear he wants to be in Indianapolis. But he also has to put on a good face. He's got to sell his wares. So not performing well does not do him good if he wants to leave.
Well, listen, I know it's complicated when you look at it from the outside. I mean, I tend to think every player in the NFL, every professional player, regardless of the sport, goes through something like this. Contracts and free agency and trying to maximize your value, because professional athlete will tell you, like, you just can't do this forever. And there's a shelf life of how you can get paid to maximize your athletic abilities. So especially
at running back.
running back,
Exactly. Yes.
running back, really, really hard right now, just the way things are going. So, listen, before you judge any mile in their shoes, so to speak, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I think that Jonathan Taylor honestly can really keep this simple and separate, what's going on with him off the field versus, he's just a football player. And I think, there's obviously a lot that's happened, and there's a lot that's been stuff since August at the start of training camp. But I really think that, Taylor's excited to be back because now he's on the football field and he can do what he is meant to do. Like, he was put on this earth for one reason, and that is to be, to maximize his unique, special, and freakish talents running the football. And so in that regard, I think he's just really back on the field and back kind of in his safe place, in his sanctuary, just where he feels most at home. And I think he's going to be able to compartmentalize and separate the two. Like, okay, I mean, wherever he's at in terms of satisfaction with the situation, that aside can exist over here, and I can still come in and be and give everything I have to this team while I'm here for the time being. I think that's the approach that he's taking. And quite frankly, I think that's the approach that the Colts expect him to take. And all of his teammates inside the locker room, I think they get it. Like, this is a mature enough, team and a mature enough locker room where guys understand, like, we all go through it. Like, we all have age contracts, so we all have free agency to contend with at times. So we all get it with Jonathan Taylor. It's not like we're going to hold a grudge against the guy, because we all deal with it at certain times. So I think everybody in the locker room too can separate Jonathan Taylor, the guy that's trying to get a contract in the long term with he and his agent, versus Jonathan Taylor, the good guy, and Jonathan Taylor, the good teammate. What's going on right now? You have two competing things that are existing in two different vacuums, if you will.
Exactly. And there's so many times where you see a situation like this to where it looks like it's almost like a family when a brother is just pissed off at his other brother and they don't talk for 3 months. And then, and here comes the big hug and it's all you one big happy. I've seen it all the time. It's funny, but you always hope it works out no matter what. I would be remiss if I did not bring up the passing of Dick Butkus, one of the greatest players of all time in the NFL, one of the faces, all-time faces of the game. You cannot think about old school football and not think about Dick Butkus. The great quotes that I remember when I coached in high school, our high school coach he was a kid when Butkus was playing, so he'd have all that stuff. And his greatest goal was to hit somebody so hard that their head came off and the helmet went rolling. I mean, that's just something he said, 50 years ago, but it was just one of those funny things. But he was the epitome of the NFL.
Yeah, certainly within that era of toughness and grit. Like when I think about Dick Butkus, grew up in the era to watch him. But my exposure to him primarily in that era is just, when I think of that, I think of NFL films and John Facenda and like that old image of
voice
NFL
of God.
film.
You mean the voice of God?
Yeah. Just that image of they would zoom in on his. Remember that image of him sitting on the side with the coat on, like the sideline coat. Yeah, they zoom in on his hands, and he's got just bloody knuckles and taped up hands. I mean, those are the hands of just pure toughness and grit. So I think Dick Butkus just absolutely synonymous with old school, hard nosed, tough football, setting the standard for offense historically in Chicago at the linebacker position. So no, I'm totally with you, and just really really disappointing to see that, and obviously thoughts and prayers to he and his family, and certainly all that love Chicago Bear football.
And there's few names that just transcend time, especially as sports continue to grow in different directions, and the game may change this here. Man, there are just some names that aren't going to go away. And Archie Manning, who was the president of the NFL, or the NFF chairman, he simply was and always will be one of our game's greatest legends, an unbelievable competitor. He dominated every inch of the gridiron on every down for every second. There was simply no let up. He was relentless and unstoppable. His name is one of the few that I expect will never fade. And I believe that because I didn't grow up getting to watch him play, but I knew who the hell he was. And and obviously now, but yes, watching those, if you're younger than probably 40, man, you don't understand the NFL films. Go back and watch. Matt mentioned John Facenda. He was known as the voice of God. He had this booming voice. And the Chicago Bears rolled into Dallas, and Dick Butkus and whatever. But it was just those were NFL films were ahead of everybody's time. Those things were being made in the 60s and 70s, and they were incredible. You want to talk about marketing? NFL's been ahead of the game for a long time.
Oh yeah, NFL films, man, just like the concept of football and slow motion and narration, you're exactly right, completely ahead of its time. And obviously there's been a lot of offsprings of that, and a lot of people trying to imitate it, but still I think NFL films 30, 40 years later, that they are still the gold standard of trying to capture moments and create images and scenes larger than life. There's no doubt. Those people are here every single day almost inside the Colts complex, getting footage, and you just see them in real time doing it, and you really don't think anything of it. And then you see the finished product, and it's just larger than life. Like I said, they do just an unbelievable job with the capturing, the editing, and the imagination to put it all together. It really is just so top notch.
And he's a Big Ten guy. He's graduated from Illinois and Illini, who he led the Illini to a Big Ten championship back in 62 or something, I think I saw. But they went to the Rose Bowl. They beat Washington, and he had a key interception in that game. He played in the NFL for 18 years at that position. And he was, 6'3", 240 pounds. Can you imagine back then a guy being in? It's just, whoo! Yeah, I'm glad. Holy, that just scares me sitting here thinking about it. Well, brother, I was at the Colts game last week. What an incredible second half comeback! Actually, fourth and a half quarter comeback. Anthony Richardson, that has to be a great learning experience for him. I know that there are no moral victories in professional sports, but that was something that they have to use to learn from, although they had a shot to win that game, which is incredible because the Rams are no slouch. And when you're down 23 to nothing, it's hard to maintain that mental focus, but they did, and they managed to get all the way back. Just couldn't quite finish the job.
Yeah, no, you've got, after that game, you certainly have the melting pot, disappointment of getting down big early and not playing well at the beginning of the game versus, the resiliency and the drive and then, the no quitting from the team, coming back and Richardson leading all of those touchdown drives in the third and the fourth quarter. And then the overtime, just the sadness, the disappointment of not being able to get off the field, not being able to limit the big plays. You had the meltdown there in the second on the touchdown, the game-winning score. So there's a lot of things to clean up. There's no doubt about that. But this team, I think, when you look at it in totality after 4 games, I think it's ahead of schedule, and I think it's a viable contender in the AFC South. Now, certainly there's a long way to go. Every team in the AFC South right now actually is 2-2. It's the only division have a team over 500 through 3 games, which I think is going to speak to the parity. And I just think it's going to be a dogfight all year long. That's why these next 2 games, the game on Sunday against Tennessee and then next week, week 6 at Jacksonville, I'm not saying they're must-win games, but when your schedule for the second straight year is so front-loaded games, right? 4 of your first 6 are against the AFC South. Last year, 5 of your first 7. They are just so big right now at this part of the schedule. If you lose these next 2 games, you're really, really fighting an uphill battle. It's not insurmountable, but you're going to have to really play some good football down the stretch in November and December, because the easiest way to make our division, and if you stub your toe early in the season with all these division games so front-loaded, it's going to be hard to overcome them. So, these games, they count as 2 inside the AFC South. This is just a monster game. It's a home game. Colts haven't played well at home here recently. Tennessee's won 5 straight games. And again, you just have so many games early in the South. This is a pivotal game. It's only week 5. It's not must win, but man, it's pretty damn close.
Matt Taylor, appreciate you, brother. Enjoy your weekend.
Will do, man. You too. Thank you so much.
You bet, brother. Matt Taylor from the Indy Colts joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the Hello, Robert.
How are you?
I'm doing dandy. Did you get I just sent you another text.
Oh, okay. I'll take a look.
I have a long list of, since it's a bye weekend, I have a long list of things here.
Okay.
To do. Actually, that's just the front page of it, unfortunately.
Oh man.
But one of those is Psalms is on there. But I also emailed them yesterday about that other one, and to get that replaced.
Yeah.
There's 140 on that right now.
Right.
And I'm like, I need this replaced.
Yeah.
So
I'll
get that, both of those taken care of. Well, okay. I've already
I've got
emailed
a
the
golf.
one.
I got a golf thing at 9:40 today, so I should be okay.
Make sure he gets out, right at 9:10.
Oh no, we'll try to maybe squeeze it a little faster.
Awesome.
Where are you playing? Same place?
No, playing Ironwood. Prairie View has got something going on today, so we're just playing Ironwood. It's just a little muni up here in Fishers.
Got a little something going. Got a little Billy Walters coming in. Billy Walters.
Me and Kiefer, Zach Kiefer, and but Mike Wells might play. I'm not sure.
I've never met Zach.
Good guy. Very.
I'm seems like it.
Really, really talented.
I met daggone it. What's his guy that covers the Colts for
James Boyd.
No, the other kid.
You mean for the Athletic?
No, the Star, I'm sorry.
Oh, Nate Atkins.
Yes, Nate. I met Nate.
He's a good dude.
I've met Nate, but I have not met Zach.
He'll kick my ass, but let's know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw your piece. I wish I would have been there, because I would have just said, what is your point of having this presser if your only interest is just talking about your only goal was to get healthy?
I know. It was.
All right, here we go, guys.
Pathetic.
Students can play for the rest of 2023 for just $299. That's right, play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, baby. Love to be able to say that. October 6th, welcoming in the great Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. I just saw someone say a comment that I see Bob Kravitz and I tune in. Well, are you subscribed, more importantly, to bobkravitz.substack.com? Hey, I'm all about it, baby. I'm a carnival barker.
I appreciate you being a carnival barker. I need all the subs I can get. It's going well. So that's the nice thing.
That's always great to find. Let's see. I'm trying to get that up there. Daggone it. Ray Steppen, so that can go in. Oh, now I got to rewrite it. But anyway, you were there for the whatever you want to call it, the Jonathan Taylor show, I guess, yesterday. Just talking to Matt Taylor about it, and really not a lot to talk about. He obviously does not want to be in Indianapolis, and he's cleared to practice. He's supposed to practice. I'm like, well, this is going to be weird. If he has the feelings that he is showing, even as a professional, I don't know why or how you would expect him to. How would you trust him on the football field? Right.
Is he going to ball out? And that's a good question. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts won the battle, but I wonder if they didn't lose the war. I mean, they got him back. They got him back on their own terms. They got him back making the money he was making previously, $4.3 million, about $240,000 a game, which is roughly what I get paid per song. So, no, he's in a weird position, or the Colts are in a weird position, because he made it abundantly clear that he is here for now, that, while he's here, he'll do his best. Will he ball out for the Indianapolis Colts? And that is the number one question leading into this game against the Tennessee Titans.
And it's a big game because, Matt, this is a inter-division game, and Indianapolis has kind of a, they're up right now they beat the Texans, so this is huge and would be greatly unexpected for them to be in this position if they were able to pull out a win, especially after last week. I was up in Indianapolis for the game in which they were down 23-0. You're like, yeah, people are leaving. Friends have said, I turned it off, and I'm like, I'm still there. I'm like, so I'm scoring. I'm like, and I'm like, oh man, they got a shot. Yeah. And but that has to be great. It would have been better if they had pulled it off. But for someone like Anthony Richardson, that's got to be a great, great tool that he has gained right there.
Absolutely. He knows he can bring a team back. And more importantly, his team knows that he can bring them back. I really think that was an important moment for him and his development. No, I thought that they proved a lot to themselves in last week's game. It was a loss, yes, but I think they gained a lot out of it. And let's be honest, we're talking, must-win games and all that stuff. They're not going to win the division this year. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, but you're looking for hopeful signs. And I thought last week was an absolute hopeful sign. And now we'll see if this run defense, which really struggled last week with DeForest Buckner on a pitch count. Let's see if they can slow down Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he is, man. he should not be allowed to be a running back in the NFL. That guy, if that guy came toward me, I'm stepping up on the curb, man. That's like a bus coming down the lane.
Oh, I'd be like a matador.
You'd be in there longer than I would, brother.
Oh,
I don't think I'd stay in there that long. He has to be the biggest running back and a true running back like that in the history of the game. I mean, Earl Campbell was bigger than different
ones, but none combine his size and his speed. I mean, when he gets to the second level, really bad things start to happen to guys in the secondary, cornerbacks, and they don't want any part of that dude. So it's really important that your front seven keeps him under control, and that's something they have not done the last two games. So that's something to watch.
Currently, there are two coaches in the Big Ten suing their schools for a combined total of around $200 million. $130 million for Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, another $70 million for Mel Tucker at Michigan State, and they're not going to walk. I've said this I was talking to an attorney friend of mine. I'm like, those guys are not walking away empty-handed, and he didn't agree with me, and I'm like going, I think you're wrong. I'm not an attorney, but I'm like, there ain't no way in hell those guys are walking away. The Mel Tucker thing, as bad as it kind of sounded, I think that's Michigan State's looking for a loophole to get out of paying that. And with Pat Fitzgerald, buddy, I think that's going to be a tough one too, because there just wasn't enough. There may have been some smoke, but there wasn't enough fires that were linked to him. And the way they did their decision, suspension, not suspended, you're fired, but bloom. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I thought that the Northwestern situation was really messy from the start. Now, I'm not going to lie to you or your listeners and tell you that I've done a deep dive into the.
Oh yeah, me either.
Yeah, I just know the raw outlines of what happened. But yeah, Northwestern in particular, that was really kind of strange. There was a lot of machinations that surrounded that, and I'm not sure that he doesn't have a case. I mean, he's done coaching at Northwestern clearly, but he probably deserves to walk out of there with a couple of shekels in his pocket.
Oh, and I'm quite sure that'll happen because he was really well liked.
He was loved.
And I know that people could say the same about Joe Paterno, but a completely different situation.
Right.
And a totally different situation. Also yesterday, the Big Ten released its new flex
schedule.
30, 39, 67, 40. I'm kidding. It's XVII, the 18. They call it the Big Ten Flex Protect X18 with the Roman numerals schedule, which was pretty interesting. They're only going to make the schools travel out west once each year, which is good for the schools back here. And I think they've done a good job with this schedule. The one thing that stood out to me is there are 12 protected rivalry games, and Penn State is the only school that does not have a single one. Most have one or two. Iowa has 3. And I just think that's a kind of a load of crap that they've been allowed to lock in a third of their conference slate. It is against Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. The Wisconsin series, okay, that one's close. It's like a 45-42. Wisconsin has the lead. The Minnesota series, actually, Minnesota still leads that series by like 20 games, but that is very similar to the Indiana-Purdue basketball series where Purdue leads it, but both Purdue and Minnesota were really good at the turn of the 19th century.
Right.
And built up a gigantic lead in the series that's been hard to capture because since then, it's been all Iowa. They've won like I think 8 straight and 30 out of the last 41 games.
Damn.
And then the Nebraska is one of theirs. They've only met 53 times in 131 years.
Right.
They've won the last 8 of 10 of those games. And I'm like, I just don't agree that Iowa. There should be a 2-team max that you can block out. Why Iowa was given 3, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't think of Iowa and Nebraska as any kind of a natural rivalry. Actually, I mean, when I think of a rivalry with Nebraska, I think Colorado. That's why. I mean, I covered a lot of those games back in the day. I remember one game. It was a rainy, cold, nasty day in Lincoln, and Eric Bieniemy fumbled like 5 times, and Colorado still beat the crap out of them. I mean, that's when they were really, really good. So, yeah, that doesn't make much sense to me. But, no, I mean, let's see. Where does IU go next year? I think
they travel to Los Angeles to play they get to go to Pasadena right off the bat to play UCLA at the Rose Bowl, which is awesome. They also have to go to the Shoe, Northwestern, and Michigan State. So that's not horrible. That's two rough road games.
If you're an IU fan and you're looking for a destination, go to the Rose Bowl. I'm telling you.
Let me tell you. Oh, absolutely.
It's fantastic. It's just you see the sun go down over the mountains, and it's just extraordinary.
Yeah, Pasadena and where the Rose Bowl is, it's a park. There's a park, and there's a golf course next to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew you would know the answer. I thought I've been there, but it's just in a really nice area north. I think it's north or northeast, a little bit of Los Angeles. Is where Pasadena is. But they will welcome Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Purdue, and Kalen DeBoer and the Washington Huskies.
Nice.
In Bloomington. So those are the 2 things that jump out to me. Traveling to Pasadena, and then Kalen DeBoer bringing his Huskies into Bloomington. Ironic, and I didn't even think about it till now, but it's very ironic that it is in a year that would be a make or break year for Tom Allen.
Oh, no doubt. Next year is it. I mean, the buyout right now is 20-point-something million. The buyout next year will be $7.95 million. So, yeah, there is no question that he's got to get it right next year. And even then, I'm not sure that's going to be enough.
We'll find out, man.
What happened to a couple of years ago? They had their greatest recruiting class ever. Whatever happened to that?
Something called the transfer portal, I believe. There's a guy that was in that class or mixed with those guys that I think he's pretty highly upranked for the Heisman right now.
Yeah,
I forget his name. And there's another guy that's the number 2 quarterback at Michigan right now. Those names they're slipping I'm slipping their names at the moment.
Yeah, I understand.
Bob Kravitz, go out and enjoy your day. Have a great weekend, man. And we look forward to it.
All right, sounds good. Good talking to you.
You as well. Make sure you go to bobkravitz.substack.com and keep up with the best in coverage from our buddy Bob. We've got more coming up. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload will join us, and we'll talk more about the conference layout and how that will take place. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Good morning, Travis.
Morning, everybody. How are you guys doing?
How are you?
Good on a Friday.
Yeah, I'm good.
See, I know what you're thinking right now. You're hoping that the headphones and the microphone stay the same. I can tell. I can just tell. You're sitting there like going, all right, man, don't change. It's all perfect. It's working.
it makes it so much easier doing it this way.
Oh,
honestly.
I know, but it's so funny. Like last time it was like this, and then all of a sudden, boom, it wasn't.
I don't get it.
I don't either, but I knew I could read it off of your head. I could see it and feel it. You know what? I haven't really looked at Purdue's outline. I was so into Indiana's. What the hell?
The
really?
2025 one is brutal.
Let's see. Next
Indiana's
year they travel to
2024
Illinois,
is
Indiana.
pretty brutal, and then the 2025.
Man, they've got nothing is easy. I should never use the word easy in the Big Ten, but they've got a manageable road schedule next year. Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State, yet Ohio State and Wisconsin. But Nebraska at home, Northwestern at home, Oregon at home, and Penn State. See, is it 25 you said?
Yeah. Because the other thing to factor in.
And you travel to Wisconsin and Washington. You only have 4 road games.
Well, the other thing to factor in is starting next year, Notre Dame is on the schedule for the next 5 seasons as well.
Ooh. Hello.
And next year they have a return game at Oregon State from when Oregon State came to Purdue in 2021.
Oh, she sells by the seashore, baby. Yeah.
But we do get the Mighty Trees of Indiana State as our third non-conference next year.
I was gonna ask who is that remaining? The 6, the Sycamores. My God, that'll be, man. That's because
Purdue had signed a 6-game contract with Notre Dame, and the first one was in South Bend in 2021. And then the next 5 are the next 5 years alternating Purdue, South Bend, Purdue, South Bend, Purdue.
All right, here we go, guys. Remember, planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by WOW Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here, and joined by our good buddy Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. And I did not take a chance. I didn't look at a lot of the other schedules yesterday, as a matter of fact, because it was, geez, you never get 5 years worth of a schedule to digest. So I was just pouring through Indiana's and all the different calamities, the makeups, the unique matchups. And I just pointed out Bob Kravitz was just with us. And I just pointed out that next year for Indiana, the things that just jumped off the page is they get to return to Pasadena and play in the Rose Bowls for the first time since 1967, when they played USC for the Rose Bowl championship. But the bigger thing is a home game against Kalen DeBoer and the Washington Huskies, Indiana's former offensive coordinator, who is just rolling out there, and that will come in a critical year. It's Tom Allen's make or break season without, to me, no question. His buyout is such that there will not be, I don't care if they lost every game the rest of the season, there would not be a change. But next year there's going to have to be performance, or I would expect a change at the end of that season, because the buyout drops by 60%. But how ironic would it be for that Washington and Kalen DeBoer to be part of the reason for a job change at Indiana?
Yeah, it would be interesting. I know we were there as Purdue fans with Daryl Hazel, where you get to the end of year 3 and you see that buyout and you're like, well, he's not going anywhere, but geez, he's not, it's very clear he's not going to last very long. So That's a hard spot to be in as a fan. And, Tom Allen has actually
The
done
worst
more.
spot to be in as a school.
Yeah, but Tom Allen has even done more. I mean, he did have some success there with Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, they were up.
I mean, when you're entering the 2021 season in what, Indiana was ranked 16th or something. I mean, that was pretty solid.
They're going bowl games, went to back-to-back bowl games, the Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl. Probably should have won both of those, but that's neither here nor there. Looking at the Purdue schedule, the first iteration of it in 2024, it doesn't seem that's it looks to what I call a manageable schedule. They do have teams will rotate, having 5 road games one year and 4 road games, Big Ten road games one year. Next year, Purdue starts off with 5, but they're at Illinois, at Indiana, at Michigan State, which those are what I call manageable games. They're, everybody's on equal ground. Purdue does have to travel to Ohio State and Wisconsin, which they're not Wisconsin at the moment. So that may be a break. At home, they get Nebraska, Northwestern, Oregon, and Penn State. So next year is not a bad schedule at all for Purdue. And looking forward into the 25 season, only the 4 road games. And besides Michigan, you get Minnesota, Northwestern, and then Washington, which that one's going to be a tough one without question. As is Michigan. They will get to play in the Big House and the Loud House. I have to start calling it the Loud House. And then home games with Indiana, Illinois, Ohio State, Rutgers, and the Trojans of USC will come to West Lafayette. What has jumped out for you on these schedules? Before I go through all of them,
I think the thing that stood out the most is the Big Ten actually took Purdue into consideration next year when scheduling the West Coast games. And I say that because Purdue has a return game at Oregon State and the non-conference. So
yeah, let's talk about. We were talking in the break. Buddy, Purdue is going to be in position to either get their ass spanked next year or have some really good wins, because their schedule is absolutely brutal. Is it next year or the year after that it is really brutal?
25 is the one that's really brutal, because I know that, as you said, they got USC, they got to go to Washington, they've got Michigan on there, and then they have to go to Notre Dame in 2025. The Notre Dame is on the schedule the next 5 years. That's part of a 6-game deal that they had gotten with the Irish. The first game was 2021 in South Bend. But starting next year, it alternates every year. Purdue, Notre Dame, Purdue, Notre Dame, Purdue for the next 5 seasons. So you've automatically got a tough non-conference game right there. They've got the return game at Oregon State next season. Purdue hosted them in 2021, beat them to start the season, and that's really what kicked off the 9-4 year in 2021. It got everything going.
Notre Dame on the schedule next year?
Yes, it is at Purdue next season.
So the Indiana State game will be the only whatever you want to call
layup.
It. P5, yeah. Exactly. Wow. Oregon State, good, ranked right now. I don't know. You never know what someone's going to be like next year. That's another thing that I talked when I put out a story on this at thehoosier.com, which you can go to. And for all of Travis's material, you can go to Boiler Upload. But number one, Iowa has gotten a pass from the Big Ten, which they always do. It drives me insane. When Indiana started with a Big Ten, started the season with a Big Ten opponent 5 out of 7 years now. That's ludicrous, number one. Twice it was against Ohio State. Once it was against Iowa 2 years ago. And I went out to Kinnick. That was only Iowa's second time since 1979 of opening up with a Big Ten opponent. And that was Indiana back then. And that was Indiana. But now these protected rivalry games, like Indiana and Purdue has that's Indiana's only protected game, which I think that was not smart of Indiana. I was like, go out and get another one. Get one with Northwestern or Rutgers. I'm serious. Lock them down, because both of those schools only have one protected rivalry game. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Protect that game. Don't take a chance on it being UCLA or anybody like that. I'm like, good God. Iowa was given not one, not two, but 3 protected games. And it makes zero sense to me. The Big Ten has now allowed Iowa to lock down 1/3 of their Big Ten schedule. You get the 3 non-con games. Boom. They're pretty much bowl eligible when the season starts. But the series that they've taken, the 2 I could go, I'm like, okay with. I'm okay with Wisconsin. They've been playing for a long time. The series is like 45-47. I mentioned this earlier with Bob. It's close. The one with Minnesota, it's been going a long time, but it's I want to hear it. You'll love this. I should have saved this for when you were on. It reminds me of the Indiana-Purdue basketball series. Purdue leads the series against Indiana basketball. Minnesota actually leads the series with Iowa in football. But it's because both of those programs were really good at the turn of the 19th century and built up a really big lead in the series. Because if you go from like the 40s on in both of them, Indiana leads, Iowa leads. Iowa's won the last 8 straight, and they've won the last 30 out of 41 games against Minnesota. So that's a lockdown win. Then they've added Nebraska on top of that, whom they've only met 53 times in 130 years. That doesn't exactly scream rivalry to me. But regardless, I don't understand how they can allow them to lock down 3 games like that against teams that, it's not like they did it with UCLA. It's not like they did it with Penn State, who has 0 games. I think that's total BS. But that's Iowa, and that's, for whatever reason, the Big Ten loves to protect Iowa.
Well, I mean, Iowa can't protect itself with that offense. So, I mean, nothing is guaranteed as long as that offense is what it is.
14 points in a cloud of dust, baby.
Oh, man. I think it's ridiculous that Brian Ferentz gets to count defensive touchdowns and special teams touchdowns towards his incentive this year.
He's lost his quarterback now, and we're talking about Brian Ferentz, the OC for Iowa, the son of Kirk Ferentz, who has a caveat in his contract of which he has to average, or they have to average 25 points a game, and they're only averaging 22 now and just lost their starting quarterback.
Yeah, and that's where Purdue goes tomorrow. And it's honestly, that's a game that the last 2 years, the first team to get up 10 has won the game. Purdue went out there 2 years ago when they were ranked number 2 in the country, got up on them early, and just waited for the Iowa offense to screw up. I think they threw 4 interceptions in the second, 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter, and Purdue won that game 24-7. Then you have last year in West Lafayette, Iowa comes in with a tremendous defense. They got up, I believe, 17-0 early, and they sat on Purdue's head the rest of the game. So it really, to me, feels like a game that whoever gets a double-digit lead first is going to win, just because Iowa's defense is good enough.
Isn't that
to
the story of Iowa? Isn't that every Iowa game?
Yeah, and they're good enough to defend a 10-point lead, but their offense is so atrocious, I don't know if they can come back from a 10-point deficit.
I was just trying to pull up what is the spread in that game tomorrow, because I've got to be honest with you. Although, like Pat McAfee, that when I see him on game day, he picked Purdue last week. He goes, even though they've let me down every week, and I'm like, I had picked Purdue picks for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm sick. All right, screw you all. You're not doing jack. You all suck. And then they go out and hang 44 points on Illinois, which that's not the surprise. It's the surprise that Purdue was to get 44 points because they hadn't shown that yet. But it shows Illinois boy losing Ryan Walters is just it. They're still reeling from that.
The biggest thing for Purdue last week is they finished drives. They avoided turning the ball over. I think they only had one turnover, and they were actually able to finish drives and then defensively get off the field on third downs. I think Illinois was 0 of 11 on third down at one point, and Purdue has been able to move the ball, but they were just not scoring points. I think they had 3 trips inside the 20 against Syracuse where they didn't score. They had a couple against Wisconsin like that. But last week they got it all together. They got a defensive touchdown to start the game with a sack of Luke Altmaier that Malik Langham recovered in the end zone. And really that third quarter, Purdue was the best quarter. It's the best quarter Purdue's had all season. They scored 3 touchdowns, pitched a shutout in the third quarter, and put the game away. So that was nice to see. And when they go to Iowa tomorrow, I have a feeling it's going to be a 24-7 final score. I have no idea who's going to have the 24 or the 7. But that, to me, that feels like what's going to happen. Either Purdue's going to jump out and wait for Iowa to screw up and try to come back, or Iowa's going to get like a punt return for a touchdown and an early field goal and then just put it in the hands of their defense.
You said 24-7, you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 24-7 either way.
Well, first of all, Iowa would have to hold Purdue down. Do you think that how good is Iowa's defense? I mean, I haven't watched them play. They're not on the schedule, so I haven't paid a lot of attention.
I mean, it's decent. It's not quite as good as last year, but it is good enough that they are keeping that offense in games. I believe they have 1 defensive touchdown already this season. And then you look at last week against Michigan State, Iowa scored 26, and that was like, I think they scored the last 16 points of the ball game, but they got those 16 second half points off of field goals where the defense had gotten them the ball in Michigan State territory, and they got a punt return for a touchdown. One of the field goal drives, I say drives in quotation marks here, was -5 yards. So, I mean, that's not offensive points to me. That's the defense going out, getting a turnover, and putting it in field goal range already. So I think Iowa had like 38 combined yards on all of its offense or on all of its scoring drives in the second half last week. So you limit your mistakes against this team. You don't turn the ball over. You put together a few drives with some points. This is not an Iowa team that can come back. So I just, I could be wrong tomorrow. This is me hedging because I've been wrong before, but I don't trust this offense whatsoever.
The spread it differs a little bit by a point, where depending on where you are. I just looked at DraftKings. They were giving Purdue 2.5 points, which that's a win for Purdue in my mind. But if you look over at I forget which one this is, but there's a different one I'm looking at now. They're only giving Purdue 1.5 points. So people are definitely thinking that not only is Purdue going to be in this game, they have a shot to win at Iowa, which doesn't happen very often.
They absolutely have a shot to win. And Jeff Brom actually did quite well against Iowa. He won there 2 out of the 3 times that he played there. The last time they were there, Purdue beat them when they were the number 2 team in the country. And when I was talking with Adam Jacoby of the Iowa Rivals site this week, he mentioned that one of the things that Purdue has done when they've had success is they have just found one thing that they hammer until Iowa either stops it or can't stop it. You look at David Bell. David Bell had a career day all 3 games he played against Iowa. I mean, he had, I think, 850 yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 games against them. Iowa could not stop David Bell. And then before that, they had Terry Wright in 2018, had like a 3-touchdown game. 2017 at Iowa, Purdue won to save their bowl hopes. And it was Anthony Mahungu. They hit him on like 5 straight plays, the exact same play. They just said, Mahungu, go, that you can beat the guy at the line that's guarding you. Go, we'll throw it to you. And until they switched the corner on him, he scored like 2 straight touchdowns, and Purdue was ahead by 10 points. So, it'll be interesting to see if Purdue can find something like that tomorrow. I'm looking for Deion Burks to be hopefully get the ball in space, make some plays out there. And the Purdue running game has honestly been a pleasant surprise this year. And I think it would be ironic if Tyrone Tracy, the former Iowa running back / receiver, had a big game against them. He had over 100 yards last week against Illinois. He has scored a touchdown in every game for Purdue this season and has been a very pleasant surprise on offense. And I look for him to be involved next week or tomorrow and, really stick it to Iowa, kind of like we hope Charlie Jones would have done last year.
We'll certainly find out. Hey, make sure if you're a Purdue fan, give Travis a follow at Boiler Upload. Travis, appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend, and we'll be watching all the games.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You bet it. We got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio in the next hour, and we'll be back with that right after this break.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Woo, forgot that. That's a hard break here, that one. But yeah, that's just I cannot wait to go to I've been to the Rose Bowl, but not to inside of it, not to a game. I was out in Los Angeles once, so I'm like, I'm going to the Rose Bowl. Went up there. They were shooting some kind of damn commercial, so I couldn't get in. I was pissed off. I'm like, son of a bitch. That's like I was in Paris once. And the day we were me and a buddy were like, hey, we've got to go to the Louvre. He would just, you got to go. You got to go to the Louvre. You got to go to Notre Dame. It's a Tuesday. We go. They're closed. They close for cleaning on Tuesday. I'm like, who in the closes to clean on Tuesday? I'm like, and it's the most famous museum in the world. Don't you all have people that work at night?
I went to
livid.
I went when Purdue went to the Rose Bowl with Drew Brees, and I was sitting behind the goalposts. And one of my favorite moments as a Purdue fan was hearing Roy Johnson do "I Am an American" and get to the part, and he's like, under this bright Southern California sky, and everyone just erupted. It was amazing, and it's worth going. I hope you enjoy it when you go out there. It's phenomenal stadium, beautiful background. 10 out of 10 would do it again.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Well, brother, you have a great weekend. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you.
All right, you too. Bye.
Oh, right. Buddy. Sorry about that. Man,
you didn't do anything wrong. You're
good. I'm trying to pay attention to, especially today, to breaks, especially that one.
Loaded.
Yeah, RC, man, he gets you in a bad habit. I think we could take a 10-minute break if we wanted.
Really?
I don't know how. Oh, does he? Yeah, I don't know how he does whatever when he.
I've never gotten any complaints from the stations when he's filled in, so I don't know.
No, he does it. So.
Good morning, Zach.
How are you doing?
Doing good.
Just off of the pitch.
No,
that's a good look. That's a good looking one there, man. Who's that?
It's Liverpool.
Do they change every year? Is that what you said?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a way to get
parents me up.
It's a way to get parents to spend more money.
Oh, absolutely. And it cracks me up. The blowback I've seen on a couple of boards regarding IU football's black jerseys blew my mind. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you people? Yeah, that's Purdue colors. I'm like,
guys, here we go. 583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday for you. We appreciate you being with us so much. Hope you're having a great day and get ready for the weekend. We're trying to get you in that direction. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us now. And Zach, there's plenty where we can try to squeeze in. Of course, the new schedule that has been a great topic already. The Big Ten released the new schedule that for the next 5 years, which it's kind of cool to see that entire layout and how that is. But I think that I've not looked at everybody's, but the Indiana and the few I've looked at, I'm like, man, they look like they did a pretty good job with it. And I've not really seen any complaints. My only complaint, and I've said this already a couple times during the show, so not to be redundant, but Iowa was allowed to protect 3 games. And I think that there should be a 2-game limit with protected rivalries. No other team has that. Penn State has 0. Most teams have 1 or 2, maybe. Indiana.
What was Iowa's? So Iowa protected Minnesota and Nebraska. What was the third one?
Wisconsin.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which that's a solid series though, and it's close. It's Wisconsin, I think, leads 45-43. Nebraska is really that's the one that probably should get kicked. They played 53 times in 131 years, and Iowa's won 8 out of the last 10. It's to me, it's just like adding another game. Minnesota is also, I've used the reference that it reminds me of the IU Purdue basketball series, because if you look at go all the way back in the annals of the records, Minnesota was apparently a badass in football back in at the turn of the 19th century, because they won the first 18 straight, and I think 30 out of the first 34 or something. But now Iowa has won 8 straight and 30 out of the last 41 contests with Minnesota. So that's just been another yearly win for them. But either way, I just think when no one else has done 2 or 3, there should just be a limit. You're allowing that somebody to lay out their own Big Ten schedule, a third of their own Big Ten schedule, along with a third of their non-conference games. Boom, that's a nice little 6-game package. Not that Wisconsin is probably going to be an easy game, but I think there should have been a limit of 2.
I suppose. I mean, I think, Wisconsin and Minnesota are both trophy games, obviously, and I'd forgotten about the Heartland Trophy. Forgive me. And then, of course, there's the Floyd of Rosedale. I think, for better or worse, we're probably preserving the Iowa game or the Iowa-Nebraska game so that Nebraska continues to kind of build some sort of rivalry and heritage within the conference. I guess I hadn't given it too much thought. I mean, I think the one that obviously I think some Indiana fans are curious about would be the Michigan State game, but that game wasn't always protected. I can remember, I want to say Indiana won the Spittoon at one point when I was in college, and then they didn't play again for 2 or 3 years. So Indiana had it for a while. The bucket game has always been the protected game for Indiana for obvious reasons. So, that it is a decent bit. On the other hand, I would say, in Iowa's defense or whatever you want to say, I mean, that's, those are 3.
It's smart.
Well, those are also 3 games that aren't necessarily gimmies for Iowa. Certainly Wisconsin is always going to have a robust program. Minnesota doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon under PJ Flex. So,
they've won 8 straight against Minnesota and 30 out of the last 41.
I still think that's not going to be a straightforward matchup for them for the foreseeable future. I get your point. I just, it's kind of one of those where I think if there was another school that, if Indiana had 2 other trophy games that weren't protected, then they could make that argument. But again, and I'm using Indiana as an example. If there was some other school that had, 3 trophy games and it said, well, how come we aren't protecting those? Then maybe it would be there'd be a bit more of a case. I just think that from the perspective of the conference, you you're holding on to games that do, I think, have some measure of meaning to fans at a time when, quite frankly, you're throwing a lot of, other tradition and convention out the window. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
I think I suggested that Indiana should have created a trophy game with Northwestern, who also has one protected game. Call it the Businessman Special with the business schools going at it or something to just add a game onto the schedule, because it's certainly going to be an interesting one. I think the Big Ten, again, I think they did a good job with it. Very interesting. But the thing in Indiana's schedule for next year, the two things that have jumped off the page for me instantly were that they get to go to the Rose Bowl to play UCLA in Pasadena, but bigger in a year that will probably be without question, be a make or break year for Tom Allen. Kalen DeBoer and Washington come to Bloomington to play as well. So those are the two of the things that kind of highlighted the schedule, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, what stood out to me was that Indiana was supposed to, under the revised post LA schools pre-Oregon Washington schedule, Indiana wasn't supposed to play either of Ohio State or Michigan next year. And obviously, you're not going to go 8 years without playing either of those teams, but it felt a little bit like, sort of, after having to figure out how to survive in the Big Ten East for 10 years, it felt sort of poetic that Indiana's first year out of the East, it was, going to get a year where it didn't have to play either of those two schools. Now, not only do you bring both of those schools back on the schedule, they play Michigan at home and I think Ohio State away. But you also have Washington at home and UCLA away. And so you're kind of getting the double barrel of, getting the difficulty of the Big Ten East back in a lot of ways, while also adding two of the Pac-12 schools that are going to make things, frankly, a lot harder for programs like Indiana. And I also think, there was some blowback, obviously, on Scott Dolson at the time. But anybody who looks at these schedules and doesn't understand why Indiana is trying to make its non-conference life as easy as possible right now, I just don't know what to tell you. Indiana's just got to find a way to make, at a minimum 6 games as practical as possible, and then try to give yourself a platform to build from there, because the conference is just getting tougher.
This is why for those that do not understand, this is why they got out of the Louisville series. Louisville is not a team that is going to be a middling team. I think Jeff Brom is going to be successful there. Hell, he's 5-0 right now. But Purdue, we were just talking with Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Purdue, God bless them, Notre Dame is on their schedule next year, and they have a return game that they owe Oregon State. So they're really going to get. I think their only game that's not either a Big Ten game or a major Power 5 game is with Indiana State. So they're loaded up with Purdue Notre Dame on the schedule for the next 5 years. That's not what Indiana's program can withstand at this moment. I agree with you. They've got to have games to build on because their schedule next year is harder than it probably would have been if it had been the original schedule. I mean, playing Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, yeah, that's going to be tough. But right now there wasn't a fourth juggernaut in the Big Ten, where now they do have, of course, I don't know what USC is going to be like next year for sure, but it's a pretty good guess they're going to be a top 10 school. Ohio State's going to be top 10. Michigan's going to be top 10. Washington, not sure, but they're going to be, no matter what, it's going to be, they're not going to just fall off the face of the planet. So I think they have a tougher schedule next year than they would have.
No, they absolutely have a tougher schedule next year than they would have. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, again, going back to going back to what it was supposed to be and, what Indiana wound up with, just in terms of getting, Ohio State back on, Michigan back on, as we talked about, adding Washington. And I mean, we knew Indiana was supposed to play UCLA on the road next year anyway, even before the switch. Indiana was supposed to have UCLA on the road next year and then USC and Bloomington the year after that. So we kind of knew that at least through, I guess that would be the 2025 season. But yeah, I mean, if you spin it forward to 2025, Indiana's got to go to Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State, and it's going to host UCLA and Wisconsin. It gets Michigan and Ohio State off the schedule, but I guess they switched up the UCLA game or the USC game then for 2025. But it's just generally speaking, it's hard to imagine a world where Indiana gets a schedule more than once every 8 to 10 years now, given that you have Oregon, given that you have Washington, both LA schools, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Let's assume at least 2 of Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan State, maybe somebody else are, let's say 9-win caliber or better most years. It's just hard to imagine Indiana getting a schedule more than once in maybe a decade that doesn't include, 6, 7, not just bowl teams, but robust bowl teams, teams that are going to win 8, 9 games at a minimum, teams that might be in the periphery of the playoff. I mean, it's only going to get harder. And I know Indiana fans probably don't want to hear that, and I understand why. But it just, I mean, I don't know. I'm scrolling forward now to 2026. Indiana's got to go to Michigan, Nebraska, and Washington, and it's going to host Ohio State and USC. You go down to 2027, got to go to USC, got to go to Minnesota. You're going to host Michigan, Iowa, and Penn State. I mean, it just, and we can go on and on. We can go through the whole schedule. I agree with you that I think the Big Ten did its best in this, and we all could recognize there was going to be no perfect scheduling formula. It's going to be fascinating to see what they try to come up with for basketball, because a 20-game basketball schedule with 18 teams in the league just isn't practical. I mean, if you play, what are you going to do? You're going to play 17 teams, or 14 teams once and 3 teams twice. I mean, how do you make that equitable across the course of a number of years? I don't know. But it just, this is the reality of conference consolidation. I think that's probably what we should call it at this point. It's not expansion. It's not realignment. It's consolidation. And it's only going to get harder for the Indianas of the world in a sport like football.
Well, Zach, it's a bye week, so I hope you enjoy your Saturday of not having to be at a football game, and maybe either spending it with the kids or watching some games and relaxing.
I'm sure we will find something to do, something to keep them busy. I might get a little more football. Playoff baseball is back tomorrow too, but it's funny. We always look at the bye week and say, oh, it's going to be quiet, it's going to be relaxing, and we forget that it's still October. I mean, there's still basketball recruiting to cover. There's still just the news cycle of, in this case, it was the Big Ten football schedule, but, obviously also Indiana changed offensive coordinators. We always think the bye week is going to be almost like a week of vacation from football season. And we forget that there's still just a whole other, there's a whole world going on around college sports that isn't going to stop this time of year. So, yeah, we are in the busy season, and it's only going to get busier.
Brian, thanks a lot for joining us again today, brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, Jim. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow and be a subscriber. I am. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Casey Bartley will be joining us, and we're going to be talking some recruiting up.
Jeffrey the Greek's next, then Bartley. Just want to.
Oh, okay. The Greek. We'll do some picks. Then we'll talk about some recruiting updates. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I did not know the Greek was on today.
I probably should have told you yesterday. Also,
No, it's
maybe don't rail on Iowa while he's on, since he hasn't been on here with us in a while. I've been talking about.
I'm not
Iowa
railing
a
on
lot
him
today.
Well, I'm not railing on him. I just think that it's smart. I think the Big Ten is who I'm ripping for allowing that.
Yeah.
Who? Magic Johnson? Damn.
What did Magic Johnson do?
He's a limited partner with the Washington Commanders. He delivered harsh criticism of his new team following a 20-point loss to the Bears last night. After the Commanders lost 40-20 to the previously winless Bears, Johnson tweeted in part that the Commanders played with no intensity or fire. We didn't compete in the first half. It was too big of a hole to climb out of. All right.
Bears only won because of Dick Butkus passing away.
Man, this is Jim Irsay, man, and the Colts, man. We've got a big game on Sunday. We need all the support we can get, man. We're playing the Titans, man. I mean, those are warriors from back in the day. If you know what a Titan is, man. Oh. Remember that kid from North Carolina that Mac, the fuck's his name? Mac Brown made that big stink about?
I don't remember his name, but I think I remember.
Des Walker. Des Walker. He's a big-time transfer. Initially ruled him ineligible this season. He has not been able to play. But they have reversed their decision. Also, damn it. There's so much to freaking talk. God damn it. I hate.
Here we go. We got 15. I guess Greek should be on shortly, I believe. He didn't say he wasn't.
Oh, I got plenty to talk about. Don't worry if he doesn't.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Chop Shop Steakhouse, Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Man, there is so much to talk about. There was stuff yesterday I wanted to talk about, didn't get to. I mentioned the College Cup, soccer's Final Four, will be played in Louisville's Lynn Family Stadium this year. That's where the Louisville. I hate to call them
where
a
their
minor
USL
league
team plays, Louisville City FC.
Yeah, they're right one stick under the big boys. Very, very successful program they have, and they have a love of soccer down there. That stadium fills up. They've got the whole. They're all into it, man. But I'm just grateful to see it not be on the East Coast where it's been
the West Coast, from that matter. It's always
Yeah,
either in
but
Cary, North Carolina, or Santa Barbara, California.
and that's crap. It's like, dude, how about a little, something for the effort? yeah, the College Cup in Louisville, wouldn't that be incredible if Indiana were to make it? They have not having a great season right now. I mean, they're not bad, but by Indiana standards, they're not dominating. But hopefully that turns around, and because that would suck for the College Cup to be, an hour and a half, 2 hours away for once, and Indiana not make it. Let's see. Indiana women's basketball picked number 2 in the Big Ten Conference, behind Iowa again. How you like that? But see, that's just where you want to be, in my opinion. Let them, I think that that just gives you more fuel to your fire. Monday, forgot about this too, John Boy. Monday and Tuesday, we'll be coming to you live from the Target Center in Minneapolis.
Man, I cannot believe it is already that time of year.
I just thought about it, and I got to pack to leave. I got to fly out on Sunday. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, golly. So, yeah, we'll be coming to you from the Target Center in Minneapolis. We'll have Coach Mike Woodson on with us, as always, as we always do for you. We'll have the players. I don't know who they are. I'm guessing it's going to be Trey Galloway and Xavier Johnson, but that is just me guessing because they are senior captains. Makes sense, right?
Yep.
So there's my
Don't
thought
they
on
usually
that.
take 3 players to media days,
No,
or is it just 2 nowadays?
It's last year it was 2. You never know.
Okay.
Is Jeffrey on with us, or
It
is
was
he
like
trying to
he's
connect?
trying to connect, but he's not.
Okay.
He's looking like he's having some issues, but we'll see him shortly, hopefully.
But more news. The NCAA is changing a couple of things. I mentioned, that may have been in a break, Tez Walker, the wide receiver that was ruled ineligible to play this season, and Mac Brown, just North Carolina's coach, went off on the NCAA. Well, the NCAA has reversed their decision after they said they received additional information. He's going to get to play. So that's good for him, and that should make North Carolina a much better team. They're also making a change with the transfer portal window. It was 60 days, and for football, it was I think it was 30 days in the fall, right as the season ended, and then 30 days in the spring. That's going to be cut down to 30 days as soon as the football season ends, and then there's 15 days for them in the spring. Then for men's and women's basketball, it will remain at 45 days, but that is all going to be at one chunk, I believe. So it is still being shrunk down. The NCAA, they found that the overall majority enter almost immediately. So they should have shrunk it to 30, but they didn't want to deal with what would be the fallout from that. Michael Penix Jr., former Indiana quarterback, and his favorite target, Rome Odunze, are the first football players to sign NIL deals with Adidas. Now, we've heard Adidas sign a lot of deals with basketball players, and they have many other athletes, but they had not delved into football for some odd reason. I have no idea why. It's kind of strange, but Michael Penix, man is rolling, baby. He's on en fuego, as they say. Those are one of the top duos in the country. As a matter of fact, where does he sit right now? I'm wondering, because he's been leading the country, and I think he's still leading the country in yards thrown for just under 2,000, I think. Yep. 1,999 yards. Michael Penix, what is that, through 5 games? So he leads the country still in yards. He probably leads in yards per game. This is a different stat sheet that I'm normally looking at, but Jaden Daniels from LSU kind of moved up. Caleb Williams is number 6 USC. And you got Oklahoma's quarterback. How about Ole Miss? Jason Dart. Man, that was a fun game to watch last week. No current Big Ten teams there in that top 10. Scoring offense, USC number 1, Oregon number 2, Oklahoma number 3, Washington number 4, Washington State number 6. That's 2, 3, 4. Well, no, they don't count. They're not coming. But the top 2, the 3 out of the top 4 scoring offenses right now are heading to the Big Ten next year. There's something to think about. Scoring defense. Now, this is where the tables flip. And it's pretty cool to look at. And John, I'm not, obviously, if he makes it on, you got to let me know, because I'm looking at these stats.
Oh yeah, you're good. He's still not on. You're fine.
The top 3 out of the top 4 scoring offenses are, it's Southern Cal, Oregon, and then Washington is 4th. 46 points a game for them, 51 for Oregon, 53 for Southern Cal. On the other side of the coin, defense, baby. Number 1, Michigan. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Penn State. A tale of two cities. That is that's ironic. I had not seen that up till now, and I'm gonna send that out. But Michigan giving up 6 points a game. Ohio State 8.5. Penn State 9.6. So those are 2 teams that are left on Indiana's schedule yet. So there's that. Pretty powerful. Powerful stuff. Indiana basketball having its pro day today at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. There's annual pro day where approximately 30 NBA teams, all 30, will be there to watch Indiana's players go through different drills, just showing their wares. It's an opportunity that every school does not get to provide. Some of the bigger schools do. You have to be somebody to get 30 NBA teams to come in. Not just anybody can get 30 teams. Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, Indiana. When Indiana, I hate sounding like a homer. I'm not. I know that, and I'm not picking on Travis. Travis uses the word fan a lot. I don't approach it that way, and our writers from thehoosier.com don't approach it that way. But damn it, John, what was I saying? I got myself off track.
I mean, you were just talking about pro day.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff.
Indiana, this is an opportunity. This is something else that they sell. Hey, we have pro day. We have 30 NBA teams that will come in and watch you. Not a lot of coaches can say that. Very few coaches can say that. Very few coaches can say, I've coached in the NBA. Very few coaches can say, I also played in the NBA. Mike Woodson can say all of those things, and it's working. Was wanting to wait till the next segment to get into the update, basketball recruiting update, and I think I'll do that. But, yeah. The pro day, a big deal for Indiana. That happening today. I think I pretty much, the gambling. NCAA, did I mention NCAA? They're also making a slight adjustment to their gambling situation that might allow Iowa's Noah Shannon, I think he's a lineman, to return. He was ruled ineligible for the entire year. He made a bet on an Iowa game, not a football game, but he bet on an Iowa game. You're not allowed to bet on your school. But he did it one time. And I think that, well, I don't think, the NCAA has, this is twice now. I just talked about Tez Walker. You never hear the NCAA reversing course. And to do it twice in a week, nuts. Where it's a positive thing for the student athlete, it's nuts. Well, I mean, it's nuts because it's never happened. But he did it one time, and I believe there is a possibility that he is going to become eligible to play this season, which I don't have a problem with. If he did that one time, it's not like the quarterback who's, Iowa's quarterback who lost his eligibility for the season, whose mom and dad helped him make those bets. Craziness. Just pure craziness.
Speaking of betting, I know we're just kind of
I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's legal in Kentucky now. I've made my first few parlays over the past few days.
No, the college pick'em. I'm glad you inadvertently reminded me. It's week 6. Don't forget to go to ESPN for our college pick'em. You just go to the fantasy tab. You'll go down. You'll see college pick'em 2023. You'll just type in ISB. Was it ISB Radio Media? I don't remember what it is. But if you haven't signed up already, the password is B-Town 2023. Capital B. B-Town 2023. I'm 35-15 right now. Well, I'm at 93%, which makes me feel a little bit better. Let's see. Where's our group, man? Hey!
And our friend Jeffrey the Greek just on time.
Look who he looked like I was just getting ready to go through our weekly picks. We have we should have gotten, I wish we'd have gotten you on this. You still can. The ESPN college pick'em. We're just just doing it straight. We're just doing it straight. It's just straight win-loss.
Gotcha.
I'm at 93.5% on the year right now.
I'm assuming that's just straight up picking.
Yeah, no, not picking the spreads, to be clear.
But don't rain on my parade. Come on, man.
I'm assuming
that's straight up pick'em.
I mean, if it was
let's get down to business because
against
we only got a few minutes till we got to transition.
Okay. So the new schedule of Big Ten, we've talked a ton about it. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'd rather, I wish once we got to college football season, we just talked about, I don't know, the college football games, but it's out there, obviously. Here's my hot take is everybody asks or talks about what it means for teams like Indiana, Iowa, Maryland. That obviously is a situation, so me looking at this from a Maryland fan's point of view. Okay. What's the best I can expect my football team to be going into the season? If I have a good team, right? Maryland has a good team this year. Probably the realistic win-loss record Maryland can expect this year is 9-3. Is that fair? With the 3, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Next year, maybe that's the same for them. Maybe they add another extra team, and the best they can expect is 8-4. Point I'm trying to make is if the best record a team can expect is 10-2, going to 9-3 is not that big a deal. I don't like it. It's one Saturday of fall that they don't win. Here's my other thing, though, that I don't think enough people are talking about. What about Washington, Oregon, USC? If they have a good team, they can expect, 10-2, 11-1. Ohio State, they can expect 12-0. What happens if those teams start cranking out 11-1, 10-2, gasp, 9-3 seasons, right? Michigan, they have a good team and they still go 10-2. People aren't talking about that, and I'm telling you right there, that's where I think some of the confident, shall we say, fan bases of the more blue blood teams, they're going to have as big a transition as anybody.
Yeah, you don't want to know what I was talking about a lot earlier regarding the schedule of many things. For Indiana, the thing that stood out, they get to go to Pasadena for the first time since 1967 when they played in the Rose Bowl. But they also will have a home game against Kalen DeBoer and the Huskies, which is some irony there.
If he's still there.
Well, where would he go? I mean, where would he go?
NFL,
really? I mean,
wherever. But I would think Washington and now joining the Big Ten is a good spot for him.
I'll tell you this: how close to retirement is Pete Carroll?
Oh yeah, there you go. Seahawks. I don't think that's crazy.
I'm not kidding.
I mean,
I guarantee you they would look at him hard, as they should. I think that he is just one of those coaches. I've always thought that.
I agree. And my sense is he would fit in at college or the NFL. What's up, Five Left?
One thing I want to ask you, Greek, real quick. Do you think the Big Ten once again prematurely released these schedules? You know, there's obviously all the conference expansion, and what if Clemson and Florida State get pulled in at some point between now and next season? And then, of course, you know what happens if that's the case. They have to scrap them for the 10th time.
Yep. I put out a tweet, make it with a GIF, to make fun of that. Like, are you sure? Are we sure about this Big Ten? Yeah. I mean, if the ACC implodes soon and two more teams come in, Clemson, whoever, they got to do it all over again.
And that's cool. That's fine. I think they did a good job with the schedule. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in Casey Bartley with boiler upload from the Purdue site. So we really got a flavor, and it gives you a double West Side, a little West lean here. So you cannot complain, especially about what I'm about to say. Another thing that jumped out, I don't think that the Big Ten should allow teams to protect 3 games. I think it should be a 2-game max. Penn State has 0. Indiana's one of the few that has 1. Most of them have 2, but 3's too many, number 1. And number 2, Iowa is the only team that did that, and they did it. One of their series is with Nebraska, who they have met 53 times in 131 years, which the average is playing them every 2.5 years. And then I know that the Minnesota series is important, but they've won the last 8 and 30 out of the last 40, just auto wins. So I just don't think that there should be 3 allowed. 3. I think it should be 2 for everybody. You can have 1, but the max you can have is 2.
Well, first thing I'd like to say is Iowa didn't do anything. This is the Big Ten doing all of this and TV. So,
Iowa had to request didn't Iowa request their protected games?
What I'm saying is 10 years ago, Iowa played these.
I don't blame them. I would do it too if I were. I think it's smart.
I don't know where to start here. It's as far as Iowa and Nebraska, they've played every year since Nebraska joined the Big Ten. You want to take the Iowa-Nebraska game away? Okay, I don't know.
No, it doesn't have to be taken away, but it should not be a protected rivalry.
But then is it really a rivalry? I don't think you
should have 3. Well, if you, my point with 3 is
we have 4 rivals. We play Iowa State too. Right. So what do we go the other way? Do we force 2 on Penn State every year? Because
no, they don't have to take 2.
Variety is the spice of life here. It's easy for Indiana and Purdue to say we just have 1 rival that we want every year because it's one in-state rival. I don't know what to say. Like the Iowa-Minnesota rivalry has been on for 80 years, and to just say, well, Iowa's won 8 in a row, so let's just stop playing it. I think that's very short-sighted and
30
has
out of the
way
last,
too much
30
recency.
out of the last 40.
That's just way too much recency bias. At any point, Minnesota could get up on Iowa, and then it starts going back the other way. You don't know that, like Nebraska. If you take the rivalry away from the Iowa rivalry away from Nebraska, now look at it from Nebraska's point of view. They have no rivalry in the Big Ten. So there's always two ways to look at this. And then ultimately, to me, how much can we rip at the fabric that is college football? Just throw Floyd of Rosedale out the window. Let's just stop this border rivalry here. Why? So that we can make TV executives happy. When do college football fans matter here? And Iowa fans want to play their rivals. I don't.
When they make Colorado and USC start a game at 10 o'clock in the morning their time, that blew my mind.
Is there a way to protect Purdue from having to play Wisconsin anymore? If we could just get that off the schedule entirely.
See, now that's right there.
Indiana thought that they were getting out of the Big Ten East, and yet in the first season of the new schedule, they still get they got Michigan, Penn State. Well, that's 27. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong year. First year, they still get Ohio State and Michigan, in addition to Washington, UCLA.
I hear a lot from Maryland, Indiana, and Michigan State fans. Oh, thank God we get out of the Big Ten East. You Big Ten West teams have no idea. I've tried telling people
Indiana's schedule is harder.
I tried telling people this for a year. I said it's not going to be any different. In fact, there's as good a chance as it's going to be the same or harder once the schedule. I tried telling people. I've said it on the podcast. I've said it on Twitter. Nobody would listen to me, but here it is.
You are right. I mean, you were right. And it's, like I said, Indiana's schedule is harder than it would have been had it been their original schedule, just because of exactly what you're saying.
Now, one thing I want to say, though, we're all projecting into the next year and the next 5 years,
which is
Oregon and
impossible.
Washington is going to be as good as they are right now. They're not. They have generational quarterbacks, especially with Washington right now. So these people, I would use Purdue as an example. Let's say Walters gets things up and running, which I think Walters is a good coach. Okay. And I think he definitely has the chance of that happening. If Walters gets Purdue, up into a quality, 8-4 type of team, to think they can't beat Washington at home or Oregon at home, like that's never going to happen. Just stop. You're not following college football if you don't think those things can change really quickly. Alabama has an awful offensive line and quarterback this year. Okay. Anything can happen. These teams change one year to the next.
Clemson didn't exactly start out on fire. It's just, there has been no dominant team. I don't believe Georgia's the number one team in the country. I really don't. I don't know who that is. I love these West Coast teams too, though. I mean, I pulled up some stats because I was talking about Michael Penix signing the first Adidas NIL deal. And I noticed something for the first time as I looked across these stats. Michael Penix leads the country in yardage, of course, right at 2,000. And you've got Shedeur Sanders. It's the scoring offense. 3 out of the 4 top scoring offenses in the country: Southern Cal, Oregon, Washington. But you look across the aisle, the top 3 defensive scoring defensive teams: Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. You want to talk about two worlds colliding, man.
And one thing I'd like to point out:
seen half of the Big Ten offenses.
Yes, that's it. That's all she wrote.
But have you seen half the Pac-12 defenses? Can I go back the opposite way? And it's not like Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State have been feast on just Big Ten teams. It's been teams mostly out of the conference right now. I can assure you Michigan's defense would look like Michigan's defense against anybody. I'm not saying they shut everybody out, but that is a absolutely incredible defense. And one thing I'd like to point out, Jim brought up really good points about how explosive these Pac-12 offenses are and how good these teams are in general, right? Taking, the top teams. We wanted to kill the Pac-12 like a year and a half ago, right? And it's dead now. But that's my point again. This entire conference sucked very recently. Now it's amazing. That's how things can change. Okay. That's how quickly they can change with a couple good hires and a couple transfer portal, situations. This is going to be the new college football. There will still be blue bloods at the top, but you're going to see a lot of jockeying for programs 4 through 34.
Greek, what's up for you this weekend, brother?
Big Ten football tonight, Big Ten football all day tomorrow. So not much change for me.
Well, speaking of which, we've got Casey on for Boiler Upload right before you go. This Iowa-Purdue game is, Buddy, Vegas has, I looked at two different, I've looked at DraftKings, I looked at FanDuel. One had it at 2.5, and the other one had it at 1.5. This is just a coin flip. A lot of this is based off of Purdue's performance last week, but it's kind of been based off of Iowa's real sluggish go at it so far. It's not like I'm not saying they're a bad team. They're not, but it's been sluggish. So, and Purdue has just been kind of roller coastery. And then last week they really went up, but this is a coin flip game.
Yeah. Sometimes maybe it's just because I'm not a football guy technically, but I think sometimes it's pretty simple. And I think what Purdue did last year to get to the Big Ten title is they feasted on a lot of teams with bad quarterbacks. Iowa has a bad quarterback. They're playing their backup. Cade McNamara is out. And I think Ryan Walters' defense, especially the aggressiveness, getting to the quarterback, just their ability to really challenge at the line of scrimmage is going to make it very hard for Deacon Hill. Not a super mobile guy. And I think the defense itself is just starting to round into form enough that if they go against a quarterback who's going to struggle to make them pay, especially deep, Purdue has, I think, enough advantage elsewhere to go on the road and get a win.
Jeffrey?
I guess I'm not ready to just to say that Deacon Hill's a bad quarterback. I would like to see
Iowa's
a little bit more.
Offense is bad.
Sure. Iowa's offense struggled. How about Purdue's special teams? How about Iowa's defense? Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think the only thing that's going to happen is Iowa's offense against Purdue's defense tomorrow. I believe there's other phases of the game.
I think that's what makes it so equal, because whatever deficiencies are here, there's deficiencies here, and it's kind of equaling itself out. The quarterback maybe the quarterback situation is the straw that breaks the back. We'll see. We'll have to check it out.
One thing I want to point out is Iowa fans, and I would include myself in one of them. I had been openly questioning that Cade McNamara should even have been playing. He couldn't move. He literally could not move. Deacon Hill, I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson, but he can manipulate the pocket and move around. We saw it last week already. And he's got a really strong arm. I don't agree that Purdue's defense has suddenly rounded into form to this top defense just yet. It did very well against an Illinois offense that has no identity and does not know what it's doing. That was a close game up until really towards the end of the third quarter. I believe Purdue's defense is needing to really come at people to stop them. I think that leaves them susceptible to double moves and a lot of stuff behind them. Do I think Iowa is going to necessarily hit those shots? I don't know, but I think they have a better chance of taking those shots with Deacon Hill at quarterback over Cade McNamara. On the other side, Graham Harrell and Hudson Card, they haven't exactly shown me that they're the most patient bunch in the world. And typically teams that get rid and try to take shots versus Iowa are the ones that have the issues. So can Graham Harrell and Hudson Card stay patient and work the ball down the field against Iowa's defense, which is what you need to do? I don't know that. I mean, I'm not saying they can or can't. I'm just saying I don't know that. And there's at least got to be somewhat of a nod to Kirk Ferentz, the third winningest coach in the Big Ten, going against a rookie coach on the road, right? So there's other factors at play here. As I said on the podcast, most Iowa games look like Iowa games, okay, which is to say a slogfest. It takes an extraordinarily good team to beat Iowa bad. It takes an extraordinarily bad team for Iowa to beat them a lot. Purdue is neither extraordinarily good or bad. To me, they're in the middle, and to me it looks like it's a coin flip, which is what Jim was saying at the beginning.
Well, brother, we appreciate you, and I'm not rooting it against Iowa. This is definitely a game where I'm like going to sit back and watch because I think it can go either way. But appreciate you, brother. Look forward to hopefully seeing you again next week.
Hopefully.
Go Hawks.
We'll Thanks for having me.
Jeffrey the Greek. Absolutely. John Boy, do you want to keep it here or take a break?
We're out of time at this point. Just keep going.
All right. So I want to get into a little bit of a basketball recruiting update. Casey, I know there's not much with Purdue, but they did. They picked up. No, I meant recruiting wise because they don't have any freaking room. But what is going on? I knew they picked up a guy here recently, but what else is what's going on with Purdue right now?
Yeah, Purdue just picked up CJ Cox out of Milford Academy up in Massachusetts. He is unheralded in the sense of, didn't have stars for rivals, not very well known, but he plays for a really good program up there. Plays with about 8 D1 guys. I talked to his coach this week, and I think Purdue fans are going to be very happy with what they find. I think Painter's done it again. He's a defensive-minded combo guard, really defends the ball, has great hands, good lateral quickness, really strong, and a really good pull-up game. So I know last week we talked about Travis Perry. I think pretty much what it came down to is Perry and Cox, and for whose ever decision that was, Cox is the answer for Purdue now. And it definitely does make 2024 pretty wrapped up. Still waiting on Big Dog Son to decide. That would be Jakari Harris, one more open potential spot for the 2024 class. But Matt Painter is, hoping to once again find someone that no one else was really looking at.
For Indiana, they are chasing a trio of very, very big recruits, of course. Boogie Fland, the top-rated point guard in the country, one of those. Liam McNeely, a top 10 wing, and then, of course, Derek Queen, a big guy. The latter two out of Montverde. But Boogie Fland down to Indiana, Kentucky, and Alabama. But everything that I am hearing and I'm talking to is Indiana has taken a lead in that. Not that matters yet until anything happens, right. And nothing is going to happen with him, to my knowledge, for a couple of weeks at the very least. His coach is out of the country. His high school coach left yesterday. He's out of the country for 10 days. So I guarantee you nothing's going to happen over the next 10 days. I promise you. Liam McNeely, I don't know. That could happen within a week, 10 days. Indiana thought to be 95% on the front there. And I believe they may be tied at the top with Derek Queen. I think they stand a very, very good chance to land all three of those guys, especially with the fact of landing. If they land Liam and Boogie, I think that just makes it almost more enticing for Derek Queen.
What do you think Mike Woodson's game plan is for his recruits? Like, what is he looking for?
Well, elite players.
What does that mean?
They have guys that he thinks that are NBA type players. I think that he has not been able to run the type of system he wants to run yet. Last year, he had to go through Trace Jackson Davis virtually on every play. and that didn't work. It was Jalen Hachifino because of the injury. So I think it's going to be interesting to see this year when he has parts that are more equal. When you've got a Mackenzie Mbako out on the wing, and you've got a Kalel Ware inside, or Ralik Renew, and you've got Xavier out front, and you've got a very veteran Trey Galloway. So it's going to be interesting to see how they switch that up.
I just always find it curious that, IU and Purdue are playing in this giant sandbox, and it really doesn't seem, besides a couple names, that they're really battling for the same people.
Not yet. That changes next year, I'm sure, with Trent Sisley, Jalen Harrelson. Indiana was kind of behind, I think, on the Indiana side the first couple of years. And then Woody's net was just a little wider. Obviously, Matt Painter is well known throughout the state recruiting-wise, so he had an advantage there. But unfortunately, we are out of time. Daggone it, we could go on forever on this. We got a little short, too many guests this week, but we'll make it up next week. Casey, I appreciate you very much. Make sure you go to Boiler Upload if you're a Purdue fan to keep up with everything, or give Casey a follow, and thehoosier.com on the other side as well. I can't thank everybody enough. Thanks to Matt Taylor, Bob Kravitz, Travis Miller, Zach Osterman, Jeffrey the Greek, and Casey, and John the producer, as well as, most importantly, you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're back on Monday to do it again live from Minneapolis at the Big Ten Media Days. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports